Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Fabric Spotlight in Place that we are having now with work from home. Today, I'm delighted to say we are being joined by Sanyogita Shamsunder. She is VP of Technology Development and 5G Labs at Verizon. Welcome, Sanyogita.
Thank you, Prabakar. My pleasure.
Great. So she's Vice President of Verizon in this executive role. Sanyogita is responsible for leading initiatives to advance Verizon's 5G innovations agenda, working with internal units, customers, industry thought leaders, what have you. So Sanyogita, people right now know you about a senior executive in Verizon and all of that. But before we launch into the heavy duty items, but just wanted to start light, get your background, how you got here, any lineage along the way.
Yeah. First of all, congratulations on the Spanugo acquisition by IBM. So that's a great exit for you. Fantastic. So yeah, I think I've been at Verizon for about 12 years in various roles at Verizon. Started with the device side, then I did the network planning, a lot of the core RAN work as they call it, looking at the roadmap, looking at various 4G. I mean, I joined the company when we were launching 4G, so I was part of the initial team that did the early rollout of 4G, and then I took over the 5G opportunity in 2015. So it was a special project inside of Verizon, working with the ecosystem to bring the 5G essentially technology to fast paced on a fast track, because 3GPP was talking about 2025 as timeframes for 5G, and there's a lot of different stakeholders, they're slowing it down, whatever. But we put effort around it and brought the industry along, and we first developed our own standards, as we call it, 5GTF, but very quickly then 3GPP, mobilized 3GPP to take it on and fast forward. So here we have now, we're talking about commercial. We have commercial for over 2 years, fast growing markets. We have home, 5G to the home, and 5G mobile. And we are on track to launch 20 devices this year, smartphones that support 5G millimeter wave, more importantly. That is a big differentiator. So that's my recent story. But before I came to Verizon, I was on the technology development side at various startups, as well as larger companies such as Lucent. In those days, I was on the research side, and then I was an optical networking company in the Bay Area for a year, and it was the bust of 2001 that essentially killed that startup. I was on the semiconductor startup for 5 years. I mean, that company is still around in various bits and pieces. So it's interesting. We went through like 3 or 4 rounds of funding, possible acquisitions, and the company still exists with IP that was licensed to different companies. So anyway, so I have had experience both on the semi side, on the network side, on the wireless side, at startups, as well as larger companies, and as well as now service provider. So that's my story. I came to this country as a graduate student, as many of us have. Right? Went through a master's, considered not doing a PhD, but did it anyways, and truly enjoyed it. I believe it's something that I would do it again in a heartbeat. And I've had the opportunity, and I'm here to support more inclusion at workplace. So I get involved in a lot of events and programs and Girls Who Code and all that stuff. I think role models are important, and I've been lucky to have successes and breaks. So I look forward to doing more as part of that.
So we are happy to note that you are bringing some inclusiveness to the Fabric Spotlights as well. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Yes, I was actually listening to Vinod Khosla's Indiaspora by MR Rangaswamy the other day. and he was saying that women founders, it's getting better. Minorities is still a problem. So I think we have a problem in our industry that we need to face it, we need to acknowledge it, and more importantly, take steps to reduce it and improve the stats. So
we Shasha and us, we also talk about this a lot. So I'm glad to see you participate in this initiative. So thank you very much for that. So I think already touched upon some of the 5G topics, but if you could kind of revisit that a little bit in terms of what Verizon is excited about in terms of the 5G area, what kind of innovations you are looking at, what kind of applications you think are going to drive the adoption, what time frame, fixed, mobile, what are you thinking?
Yeah. From a fixed perspective, we already see that opportunity, and that's how we embarked on this journey 2 years ago, right? If you look at the broadband, resources infrastructure in this country for homes, it's limited opportunities, limited players. So we believe that is a differentiation, and we have embarked on a journey to play there. In addition to obviously mobile, wireless is our big part of our revenue and our portfolio. We are the largest provider, and the flavor of 5G that we have with millimeter wave really is where the bandwidth comes in, right? It's physics. At low frequencies, 4G and 5G are more or less the same from a bandwidth perspective. We've already densified on the 4G side, so from a capacity and throughput, I think that's going to be similar. It's where we have the more real estate, which is like the frequency, the bandwidth is where bits per hertz, as we call it, is we are able to pump more, and that only comes with bandwidth, and it's at mid band and high band, as we call it. So then what do we do with that bandwidth, right? When we launch,
going to be my next question.
That was good. What do we do with that bandwidth? What kind of applications? What kind of services? So from a consumer viewpoint, we went through this kind of the same story when we went from 3G to 4G. People said, well, I have email, I have text, I have voice. Why do I need 4G? What will I do with it, right? And very quickly, video became like a big deal on the 4G network, so much so that 75 to 80% of consumption on the 4G on 4G is video traffic. And then people started generating video too, not just consuming it, but generating it and sharing it and so on. So there's a lot of bandwidth requirements going on the uplink, as we call it.
Video conferencing going on as
well,
like we're doing now.
Correct. And now when we look at 5G, I mean, so the bandwidth requirements are just going up. So even from an existing perspective, like, okay, better quality video, two-way video. And then if you start talking about immersive type of video, where we say, okay, I want to do 360, I want to do volumetric, the 4G and the low bandwidth capacity is not enough. So we are making do with it, because it's almost like I'll build to what is available with the tools that are available today. And if I know that if I have more bandwidth, I can do much better in terms of immersive, I may be able to, for example, in healthcare, I may be able to look at like minute details of somebody's skin. Right? Today, the resolution may not be enough to be able to discern some of those things, right? So even a video calling experience can be significantly better, significantly improved if we have better bandwidth, right? So that then there is AR, then there is VR, and all those things. I mean, VR may be niche from a consumer viewpoint, but it is one of the biggest applications for a lot of enterprises that they see, especially with COVID, like we are tired of 2D video, right? You want a little bit more feeling. You want to be able to feel as if you're in the same room.
Especially if you are doing remote service and things like that.
Correct. So today, I think, so for example, in augmented reality, those files are huge, right? those files are humongous, and they require a lot of bandwidth when you download those assets to a device. And if you have a lot of things going on that require that capability, then you consume more bandwidth. You need more bandwidth to have that experience. So the things that we are doing it on a limited scale today will be a lot better. There'll be new things that are coming. I mean, I don't have the crystal ball to say 5 years from now. I mean, I may be talking about something completely different that none of us imagine. So that's where the startups that build for these new tools and with the new tools are going to be important. So there may be somebody sitting out there.
Holographic.
Yeah. Correct. And so capturing, right, in the Microsoft Studio, where they capture volumetric, 100 plus cameras, completely covering the person from all angles.
Yeah. Cool. That's these are really, really exciting. I remember Toby talked about, like some of this 5G enabled application in healthcare, people being able to direct operations remotely and things like that. That's very, very exciting. So you mentioned video, and we are obviously doing video conferencing. So recently, Verizon acquired BlueJeans, and can you kind of give us a little bit more color on Verizon's strategy there and how that perhaps fits with the 5G innovations agenda?
Yeah, so BlueJeans is, I mean, we are excited to have BlueJeans on board. I mean, it's been a platform that's been around for some time now, robust, has a lot of capabilities, have had many wins in like healthcare and those types of areas where, as an enterprise, we play. We were reselling BlueJeans for quite some time, right? So we have our own solution, OneTalk, which is primarily voice based and around it, but we believe that the platform that BlueJeans offers helps us build out a lot of things that we may we look at in terms of enterprise connectivity, right? Enterprise tools, large enterprises as well as small and medium businesses are a big part of our portfolio, and then wireless is for a small medium business is one of the big growth areas, and BlueJeans is, we are the connectivity provider, so voice and video are going to be important for us.
So Verizon is a really, really broad company, right? You have all the way from pure consumer offerings to enterprise offerings. The fabric is mostly focused on service provider and enterprise, cloud infrastructure, cloud services type of things. So if you look at that, can you comment on what are the key areas of Verizon offerings that address enterprise cloud adoption, and what kind of infrastructure challenges that you see there?
So, I mean, today we offer many enterprise solutions, as you call it, right? And we use cloud for our own services and applications to whether it be AWS or our own cloud for internal network, right? We have we have virtualized a lot of our network services, so there's that, as well as applications and services for our customers that they can easily connect to the cloud, and business connectivity is important, security is important. So as this all comes together for our customers, those are some things that we have to keep in mind. How do we continue to have an offering for the customer that is secure, however they want to consume it, right? Especially whether they want to consume it from a wireline or a wireless connectivity, whether it be a near cloud or a mobile edge compute. Like what we announced a deal with Amazon back in December, right? Where are some opportunities when you look at that partnerships? How do we play, and where do we win? I think that's something that is an ongoing, from a startup viewpoint, that's where you want to look at how does that all fit in together? Where does it make sense? I mean, this is the type of enterprise for a small business. what would they most value, right? They may go to, they may use solutions that Amazon provides, or tools that Amazon provides to build the solutions that they want. But then we're talking about other types of things that we may be able to offer, right? So that's how you might want to look at when you are looking at an idea from a fabric perspective.
Yeah, so we'll come to that. Thank you for that. So you mentioned the edge cloud and what you're doing with Amazon and all of that. What are kind of like workloads do you think that can take advantage of, whether it's applications or edge-based services that can take advantage of their infrastructure? And how does that intersect with the 5G? Do they go hand in hand together, or are they two separate kind of orthogonal initiatives?
No, they're not orthogonal initiatives. So I think there are multiple things that are changing, right? There is a shift to the cloud that a lot of enterprises and small businesses are going to. But having said that, a large percentage of the population out there, or population of businesses that are not on the cloud, right? When you talk about cloud, you cannot do anything without connectivity. So there are absolutely applications and services that perfectly fine with a 4G network, the bandwidth and the connectivity and the latencies. You don't need the low latency for simple applications that maybe just use the cloud for analytics and post-processing and so on. But if you're talking about applications that really, from a transformation, industrial transformation perspective, require the security, the bandwidth, and the latency that mobile edge clouds provide, mobile edge compute provides, then you're talking about a different set of requirements, right? Whether it be so today, just take an example, cameras. There are smart cameras everywhere, right? Smart cameras that do a lot of the inference and the video processing, and have some metadata that goes to the cloud. With a smart camera could be sitting inside a smartphone, right? You have a lot of dash cams that kind of connect to the phone, or it may be a self-contained smart camera that does everything, and it's just very limited analytics on the web. But imagine that you can, but these cameras are expensive. I mean, they can't be deployed everywhere. There's absolutely applications that could sustain, or verticals that could sustain the cost of this architecture. But then if you talk about some of the other transformation opportunities where you want to take advantage of the low cost endpoints with minimal hardware, minimal additional capabilities, then you're talking about the need to have a processing as close as possible to that endpoint, right? It's as if almost it is local, sitting on the same board, right? If you look at a piece of hardware, right, the latency is so low that bus, that the connectivity is as if it's a local processing needed. I mean, and you could expand that to many other applications, whether it be from
it could enable reverse migration, in the sense that things that had to be on premise could potentially be delivered from the network now because of that low.
Correct. You don't need a purpose-based service. I mean, even though a lot of the servers now are like primarily just CPUs, Intel CPUs, for example, or AMD CPUs, and a lot of it is software driven, it's still a invested, piece of hardware that needs to be on-prem. So and dedicated. I mean, so now you can talk about when it's an edge compute, you can talk about running efficiently multiple services, multi-tenancy, and all those things that may make it more attractive.
And if you don't have to deploy premise equipment, then you can turn up a lot more services a lot faster for
That's right. That's right.
Customers. So yeah, I think it's exciting, both the combination of potentially delivering those over 5G from the edge cloud. That seems to be a very exciting prospect that's coming up. So that's thank you for that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned fabric and innovations and in this area, etc. So as you, I'm sure you are aware, Fabric co-created VeloCloud, one of the pioneers in the software-defined WAN concept. We felt that that has really achieved a lot in the software-defined WAN going to the fixed, to the branch type areas. But with the 5G coming up and the edge coming up, one of the things that we are thinking about is expanding that, not straight to the branch, but users that are truly mobile or just 5G connected locations, cars and cafes and all of those. So what are your thoughts on how software-defined WANs can play in that kind of untethered mobility type areas?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, we have 4G connectivity as one of the backup connectivities when we talk about SD-WAN, right? SD-WAN we were early in adopting it from an industry perspective, and it has been a great, a great service for us. But the combination of SD-WAN and 5G really provides more greater flexibility and control for mobile applications in the enterprise space, like you were saying, cafes and workers. I mean, we just launched the first Lenovo laptop with 5G millimeter wave connectivity in there. So it's just came up yesterday. So here you go. So it's apparently, it is enterprise grade and serves the need for a large portion of the enterprise population. So when you start thinking about 5G as possibly a primary SD-WAN connection, right? We're talking about small and medium businesses as well. It allows untethered mobile workers to have the high reliable connectivity, right, at work, while backup internet remains available for others as well. And SD-WAN provides additional security benefits with encrypted communication, and so the positives of SD-WAN continue, and then the 5G, especially from a enterprise perspective, I think that's going to be a powerful combination, we believe. Software-defined perimeter is another natural extension to SD-WAN. So for untethered users, and applications for enterprises, it's a zero trust networking. I mean, that's the heart of SDP, which means that no matter where the user is connecting from, you say that there is inherent trust granted. And users are only granted access to the services that we need. So I think there is a win-win. There is a win-win opportunity in this space with both.
Yeah, we are truly excited, and we have had a couple of discussions. So we are really looking forward to closely collaborating with the 5G side, the BlueJeans side, and all of that.
Yes.
Type of capabilities. Very excited. The audience out there, you will hear more about it as we proceed itself. So kind of to wrap up things, just wanted to kind of take you back to your days in startup. You have been involved as an entrepreneur in creating new ventures. As Verizon, you have seen a lot of young venture companies coming through. So kind of putting those two together, do you have any kind of parting thoughts, pearls of wisdom that you would like to share with our entrepreneurial audience
here? Great question, right? I mean, I see my share of startups coming. I think the biggest advantage startups have is that they don't have they have the flexibility to go conquer the market that they want, right? There is no revenue limits, right? You don't need to meet a certain target for revenue on day one, and you can explore and grow the market as you see fit. And some areas are harder than the others. We've seen a lot of startups that we started like maybe 5-6 years ago, especially in the AR VR space, that have been struggling because they were early in many ways, right? So the time to market is or the right timing is important, I guess, and the ability to pivot as needed, especially in the times of COVID, right? Again, listening to people around me and seeing firsthand how some of the companies have pivoted to even what they were like. I was talking to a company that was building something for fans in stadiums, right? No fans in stadiums. They quickly pivoted to how can I create a fan-like experience for the team, so that and it's hard. I mean, it's hard to for example play in an empty stadium. You don't have that. Interaction with the fan that keeps you going. I mean, that's why many of us don't like webinars. I don't like a webinar because you're like talking into a bare screen. It would be great to have feedback. My daughter is a dancer. She did a streaming performance the other day, and it wasn't the same. She said, I didn't have that vibe coming. So I think those are some things that you have to kind of pivot. But more importantly, be open, look at like, ask questions, look at be ready to change as you talk to your customers, and think about how you can, I guess, pivot your tech at basic capabilities to offer something else. There is from a startup viewpoint, an entrepreneur is always a positive thinker. So that's something that you keep in mind. There is never a blockage, or think of it as an opportunity to create something different.
Yeah, fantastic, great observations, and thank you very much for joining us today and sharing these exciting innovations that are about to come up on the 5G side of things and Verizon business side of things, and the entrepreneurial advice. So thank you very much for that. With that, we have come to the conclusion of this episode of Spotlight. Looking forward to sharing with you the next one. Bye.
Thank you, Prabakar. Appreciate it, and good luck to all your companies in your portfolio.
Thanks.